everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be continuing my big reading goal of 2025 where I read through all of the books on my physical TBR and try and unhaul as many of them as possible. So I am a bit of a horse girl. I have loved horses my whole life. I love to ride, and naturally that means that people think a reader who likes horses, horse books are naturally a great gift. So I have quite a few horsey books which have been on my TBR forever. These are probably the oldest books on my shelves, unread books, so I thought this would be a great time to give myself one final push to actually read these books. The first book I read was Secretariat by William Knack, and when I say read, I DNF'd this book. So this is about Secretariat, who is a really famous racehorse. He won the Triple Crown. He still has all of these like fastest times at the Kentucky Derby. He did great things, I'm sure, but I didn't get to that. I got about 3 chapters in and was not loving it. I found it really slow, and I remembered my goal of DNFing more books this year, and I thought, perfect candidate. So yeah, while I'm a horsey person, I'm really not a horse racing person. It's just not my cup of tea. I find it kind of a bit brutal, and it's just not for me. So I have never seen Secretariat races. I don't really care that much, so it was really hard to get myself into it. As well, the book it's like over 400 pages long. That's a lot of detail about a racehorse. So the first 3 chapters I read, we hadn't even met Secretariat yet. We were talking about the land of the owner of Secretariat's like great-grandparents and the descendants and like all the family tree, and I just didn't care enough. And as well, I think my mum gave me this, and she told me that the movie was fantastic. So the minute I heard that, I was like, okay, I can just watch the movie, which would be better anyway, right? Because you get to see the horses. But I just could not bring myself to continue this. So this was a DNF. My first of the year, which is very good, but yeah, DNF. The next book I read is Seabiscuit by Lauren Hillenbrand, and this was also a DNF. This is a very similar story to Secretariat. It's about a racehorse. This one I think is more of kind of a rags to riches story. It's a horse that no one really expected to go that far, and he was kind of, I don't know, like not abandoned, but he was not in the racing circuit, and someone found him and like started racing him. I got a little bit further than Secretariat with this one. I think I got maybe 50 pages in, maybe a bit more. It was really interesting reading about the trainers that had been working with other horses, and that they were going to start working with Secretariat. But honestly, I remembered that I DNF'd Secretariat, and I went, you know what, I'm not loving it enough. It was interesting, but I just didn't care. I was listening to it on an audiobook as well, and I just didn't feel grabbed. So I gave it 50 pages. I think that's very reasonable, and especially since I have this DNF goal, I thought this is a good candidate. And it has a movie as well, so if I'm actually interested, which I'm not, I really don't care about Seabiscuit, I could just watch the movie. I will say though, really nice floppy paperback. It's a nice edition, so it's a shame. So the last book I read, and actually read, was The Horse Whisperer by Nicholas Evans. I ended up giving this like a 3.5, 4 stars. This follows Grace and her horse Pilgrim, who get into a horrific accident together. The horse Pilgrim should not have been let live. He should have been put down, but the mum kind of fights to keep him alive and has all these crazy surgeries, and he ends up surviving. Grace also survives, but with a permanent disability. So they both have new physical kind of bodies to adjust to, and then they both have this psychological trauma, obviously this situation. So Grace never wants to ride again. Pilgrim doesn't trust anyone, is very hostile, and it's just not the same horse. So we see the mother go through and try and find a way to kind of get them back together and to help the horse and help her daughter. So she kind of sees them as interconnected, and she thinks if one gets better, the other will get better. So throughout this, she finds this horse whisperer and has to beg him to help her get the horse better and help her daughter. So it was a really interesting story. It's kind of loosely based off of a real person who's called the Horse Whisperer, who I've seen. He's like a famous horse trainer, and I've seen a lot of his stuff. So it was very cool seeing the little nods to that in his technique and all that kind of thing. And a little bit of the backstory was similar too, which was pretty cool. So it was a really heartwarming book. It was very well written, very touching. It was lovely reading through that journey. Obviously, it's a very severe situation, and there's going to be some fantastic character growth that comes out of that, so that was really lovely. This author loves very descriptive, gory writing. We got a very detailed account of the first kind of scene where they have this accident. It was rough to read. I got through it, yay me, but it was very hard reading, and some of that kind of continued, not with the gory stuff, but there was a lot of weird sexual like notices, and it wasn't even, I don't know, it was a weird vibe. Like, he would just mention very specific sensual or sexual details that were just not really necessary for the book, and it just felt a bit strange. I'm like, okay, like, why are we focusing on this? And it was, yeah, it just didn't really add anything to me, and it just felt a bit weird and kind of, made me feel a little bit icky. So each to their own, but yeah, I didn't love that. It is also kind of an older book. I think it's from the 90s, so not that that's old. 30 years ago, and I have seen that in like similar kind of things in books from that time where they focus on weird things sometimes, but it wasn't too bad, it wasn't too often, but it's just a little strange. There was also a cheating trope in this, which I won't go into detail because I won't spoil, but I just hate that. I hate it in all books. I just hate it. If that's what the book's about, fine, but I just didn't get it here. I didn't enjoy it, so that was a no for me. And then the author also kind of threw in little sprinkles of that. Like, we'd have a random side character who was married, like lusting over other people, and it was such a strange detail to include, and it just, yeah, I didn't love that. But overall, it was a very well-written book. It was really nice seeing Grace kind of go through this and seeing her thoughts towards her horse change. Like, at first she just wanted him gone, and then she warms to him again. It's also quite fun because Grace, like, their family lives in New York, and they sent the horse to the horse whisperer and went with him, and he lives in Montana. So it's a very different kind of vibe, it's a city girl in this country, like, dude ranch. So she just got to be a kid and kind of going around with the other ranch kids, and she had really sweet friendships and relationships there, and I really enjoyed seeing that. I also really enjoyed reading about the dynamic change between the parents after Grace's accident. I read something similar in a Lisa Jewell book recently, where the daughter was kidnapped, and kind of seeing how the parents interacted after that. And I just think it's obviously very sad, but it's a very interesting dynamic to see explored in literature, where you're seeing something horrendous happening to this child and seeing how the parents react, and do they bond back together and kind of lean on each other, or do they turn on each other, and a mix of both usually, but how it all goes down. And that was really interesting to see their perspectives as well. Like, the mother is a little bit more focused on outward looks, and so she's really worried about her daughter in that aspect, whereas the dad is just more focusing on making her feel normal and accepting this new life. And that was interesting to see kind of both sides of it, where the mum was really afraid that something, not that she'd be judged necessarily, but she didn't want anything to happen to the daughter. She didn't want people laughing at her at anything, whereas, the dad's like, okay, this is going to happen, this is her life, she needs to get used to it. So it was interesting. It was really interesting to see that kind of play out. I will say, I wish we'd see more about Pilgrim. Obviously, as a horsey person, I'm like, yes, let's hear what the horse is up to. Let's hear his training routine, what's been going on with him, blah, blah, blah. We didn't see not a lot of him, but as a horse person, I was like, oh, that would have been fun. But obviously, I understand it's to appeal to a wide audience. It would be pretty boring to just read about that. But it was really nice seeing his progress as well, and kind of the journey that both him and Grace went on together and apart. I think that was really fun. And yeah, it was interesting seeing the little horsey like techniques and training techniques. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that. So that was fun. But yeah, overall the book was great. It was very quotable, like a lot of little quips and really interesting. Yeah, I suppose life lessons and stuff like that. But overall, I really enjoyed this book, and I do think it's a beautiful story and it was really well written, kind of minus the cheating trope. But the ending is batshit crazy. I don't know what happened. I literally put down the book and had to take a moment to make sure I read correctly. The ending goes off the rails, so I don't want to spoil it. I mean, I suppose I could spoil a little bit because I don't think many people are going to read this, so I'll put a little spoiler warning. But basically, the horse trainer guy ends up cheating with the mum. She cheats on the husband with him. They like feel like they're in love with each other. Wild. Then she gets pregnant by him, and he basically tells her that she needs to go back to her husband, goes out to rescue the daughter from like a perilous situation with some wild horses, basically kills himself at the hooves of a horse, and then the mother goes back home, raises his baby, and everyone kind of pretends that it's not his baby. What? It was just insane. I was lost for words. So before that, the book was pretty great, but that left such a weird taste, and it just felt so unfinished. It felt like he'd been writing it for too long. It was like, okay, I'm just done. I'm just gonna write something crazy and get it over with. But yeah, it was a wild way to end it. Alright guys, that is it for today's video. I read 3 more books off my physical TBR. This one, The Horse Whisperer, I will definitely be unhauling. I'm never going to reread this, and yeah, someone else can enjoy it. Same with Seabiscuit and Secretariat. I do think my mum gave me these, so I might just try and give them back to her, because she likes horses as well, so we'll see. But yeah, I don't even know if I'll watch the movies, to be honest. I think if it comes up in my life, great, but I'm in no rush, don't really care. So that is 3 more books off my physical TBR and off of my shelves. So it was a pretty productive video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit like or subscribe to join me as I continue reading through my physical TBR. And yeah, hope to see you guys in another video soon. Bye!